Carl Jung analyzed over 80,000 dreams throughout his career and discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about sleep. Dreams aren't random brain noise. They're structured messages from your unconscious mind, operating through 5 distinct levels that get progressively deeper and more revealing about who you really are. Most people experience only the first 2 levels and never realize they're missing the profound psychological territory that Jung called the royal road to the unconscious. But when you understand how these levels work, from the geometric patterns that appear as you fall asleep to the archetypal encounters that can literally change your personality, you'll never dismiss a dream as meaningless again. Jung believed that understanding your dream levels was essential for psychological development, but what he discovered in the deepest levels goes far beyond personal growth into something that connects you to the collective human experience. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand why Jung considered dreams the most important tool for psychological healing. But first, let me show you why most people never get past the surface. Level 1. The Hypnagogic Gateway. Jung discovered that dreams don't begin when you're asleep. They begin the moment you start falling asleep. In what he called the threshold state, your conscious mind begins to dissolve, but instead of darkness, something remarkable happens. Your visual cortex floods with geometric patterns, spirals, tunnels, lattices, and webs of light. These aren't random firings. Jung believed these patterns were your psyche's way of opening the doorway between conscious and unconscious awareness. Heinrich Klüver documented 4 consistent patterns in the 1920s, the same patterns Jung was seeing in his patients' reports. But Jung went deeper. He realized these geometries weren't just visual noise, they were the architecture of psychological transition. Therefore, every time you see these patterns, you're witnessing your mind preparing to communicate with itself in the language of symbols. But Jung discovered something that modern neuroscience confirms. Your brain doesn't just show you patterns, it deliberately paralyzes your body during REM sleep. Why would your unconscious mind trap you in place unless what was about to happen was crucial for your psychological well-being? Jung's answer was profound. The unconscious speaks in symbols, not words, but symbols require a still mind to be properly received and interpreted. Therefore, the geometric patterns aren't the destination, they're the preparation. Your psyche is calibrating itself for deeper communication. Most people remember fragments of these patterns or dismiss them entirely. But Jung taught his patients to pay attention because these geometric gateways determine how deep into the unconscious they would travel. But the real journey begins when the patterns dissolve into something far more personal. If you've ever noticed geometric patterns as you fall asleep, comment, "I've seen the doorway." Level 2. Personal shadow integration. Level 2 is where Jung's theory of psychological compensation begins. Your unconscious mind starts constructing dreams using what Jung called shadow material. The parts of yourself you've rejected, denied, or simply never acknowledged. But this isn't just random memory replay. Jung discovered that dreams at this level have a specific function to balance your conscious personality. If you're overly rational during the day, your dreams become deeply emotional. If you suppress anger, your dreams might be filled with conflict. Therefore, Jung called this the psyche's self-regulating mechanism. Think about the classic airport dream that millions of people experience. You're rushing to catch a flight, but everything goes wrong. Gates change, you get lost, people ignore you, and you inevitably miss your departure. Jung would say this dream isn't about travel anxiety. It's about your shadow relationship with control and achievement. The airport represents your conscious, goal-oriented self. But the obstacles aren't external. They're projections of the parts of yourself that resist constant striving. Therefore, missing the flight isn't failure. It's your unconscious mind forcing you to confront what Jung called the unlived life, the spontaneous, uncontrolled aspects of yourself you've been avoiding. Jung noticed that dreams at this level cluster around 5 fundamental human experiences: identity conflicts, suppressed desires, unacknowledged fears, unprocessed losses, and avoided confrontations. But unlike Freud, Jung didn't see these as pathological. He saw them as necessary psychological work. Your unconscious mind takes the emotional charge from these experiences and wraps them in symbols your conscious mind can process. Therefore, the businessman who dreams of being chased isn't being hunted by external forces. He's being pursued by the spontaneous, creative parts of himself his corporate persona has suppressed. Jung taught that paying attention to recurring dreams at this level could literally change your personality by helping you integrate rejected aspects of yourself. But this personal integration is only the beginning of what dreams can achieve. Level 3. Archetypal encounters. This is where Jung's research becomes revolutionary. At level 3, dreams stop being about your personal psychology and start drawing from what Jung called the collective unconscious, a deeper layer of psyche shared by all, humanity. Jung discovered that certain dream figures appear across cultures with identical characteristics and meanings: the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, the shadow. These aren't learned symbols. They're inherited psychological patterns that Jung called archetypes. Therefore, when you encounter these figures in dreams, you're connecting with the deepest layers of human experience. Jung analyzed thousands of cases where people dreamed of the same unknown person for years. These figures weren't random. They were archetypal representations of undeveloped aspects of the dreamer's personality. The wise woman who appears to a logical man represents his suppressed intuition. The warrior who visits a passive person embodies their unexpressed courage. But here's what Jung found most significant. These archetypal encounters often predict major life transitions. The appearance of certain archetypes signals that your psyche is preparing for psychological growth, that your conscious mind hasn't yet recognized. Therefore, Jung called these big dreams, dreams that carry more psychological weight than personal experiences. Jung developed a technique called active imagination, where you consciously engage with dream archetypes while awake. By dialoguing with these figures, you can access the wisdom they represent and integrate their qualities into your conscious personality. The executive who keeps dreaming of an old fisherman might discover that this archetype represents patience and natural rhythm, qualities his driven lifestyle has neglected. Therefore, working with the fisherman archetype could help him find balance between achievement and being present. Jung believed that archetypal dreams were invitations to expand your personality beyond its current limitations. But there's an even deeper level where dreams transcend individual psychology entirely. Comment below if you've had dreams with mysterious figures who felt important. I've met my archetype. Level 4. Collective unconscious visions. At level 4, Jung discovered something that challenged conventional understanding of individual psychology. Dreams at this level don't just contain personal or even universal human themes. They access what Jung called primordial images that seem to come from beyond individual experience. Jung documented cases where people dreamed of historical events they'd never studied, used symbols from cultures they'd never encountered, or accessed knowledge they couldn't have acquired through normal means. But this wasn't mystical thinking. Jung approached it scientifically, tracking patterns across thousands of dream reports. Jung himself experienced level 4 dreams before his famous confrontation with the unconscious in 1913. He dreamed of Europe covered in blood, of underground rivers flowing with corpses, of landscapes transformed by catastrophic change. These dreams preceded World War I by months, but Jung initially interpreted them as signs of his own psychological breakdown, but Jung realized these weren't personal dreams. They were his psyche connecting with collective psychological currents. His unconscious mind was picking up on the cultural tensions that would soon explode into global conflict. Therefore, Jung concluded that at this level, individual psyches can access collective psychological information. Jung developed specific criteria for identifying collective unconscious dreams. They contain symbols that the dreamer couldn't have learned through personal experience. They address themes of universal human significance rather than personal concerns, and they often precede major cultural or personal transformations. These dreams frequently involve landscapes of destruction and renewal, encounters with divine or demonic forces, or visions of humanity's past or future. But Jung emphasized that these weren't supernatural experiences. They were the result of individual consciousness connecting with the deepest layers of human psychological inheritance. Jung believed that people who regularly accessed level 4 dreams often became cultural innovators, artists, or spiritual leaders because they could translate collective psychological needs into forms their culture could understand. But there's one final level that Jung considered the most profound and dangerous. Level 5. Individuation dreams. The fifth level is what Jung called individuation dreams, experiences that fundamentally alter the dreamer's relationship with reality and their own identity. These dreams don't just provide information or emotional balance. They catalyze psychological transformation at the deepest level. Jung discovered that individuation dreams often involve what he called the transcendent function, a psychological process that bridges the gap between conscious and unconscious, resulting in a more integrated personality. But these dreams can be overwhelming because they challenge the ego's sense of control and identity. Jung's most profound psychological insights came from a series of level 5 dreams and visions he recorded in what became known as the Red Book. These weren't ordinary dreams. They were active dialogues with archetypal figures who taught him about the structure of the human psyche. Through these experiences, Jung encountered figures like Philemon, an ancient wise man who became his inner teacher, and Salome, who represented the dangerous aspect of the feminine unconscious. But these weren't hallucinations. Jung approached them as autonomous psychological complexes that carried important information about human psychological development. These dreams led Jung to develop his theories of archetypes, the collective unconscious, and the process of individuation. Therefore, Jung's entire psychological system emerged from his willingness to take level 5 dreams seriously as sources of psychological knowledge. Jung warned that level 5 dreams could be psychologically destabilizing if approached without proper preparation. They often involve encounters with what he called the dark side of God, aspects of reality that challenge conventional moral and religious beliefs. But Jung also believed these dreams were essential for complete psychological development. They represent the psyche's attempt to create what he called the transcendent function, a capacity to hold paradox and contradiction without being torn apart by them. Therefore, individuation dreams teach you to embrace the full complexity of human existence. Jung emphasized that these dreams usually appear during major life transitions, midlife crises, spiritual emergencies, or periods of profound personal change. They signal that your psyche is ready to transcend its current limitations and embrace a more complete version of yourself. If you've had dreams that felt like they changed something fundamental about you, comment, "I've experienced transformation." Jung's method, dream analysis for psychological growth. Jung developed a specific method for working with dreams that differed radically from Freud's approach. Instead of reducing dreams to sexual symbols or childhood conflicts, Jung treated them as creative communications from the unconscious that deserved respect and careful attention. First, Jung would have patients record dreams immediately upon waking, capturing every detail without interpretation. He believed the unconscious speaks precisely, and losing details meant losing crucial information. Second, he would explore the personal associations the dreamer had with each dream element. But unlike Freud, Jung didn't assume universal symbol meanings. A snake might represent wisdom for one person and danger for another, depending on their personal and cultural background. Third, Jung would examine the dream for archetypal content, universal symbols that transcended personal experience. This helped determine which level the dream was operating from and what kind of psychological work it was attempting to accomplish. Fourth, Jung would help patients understand the compensatory function of the dream, how it balanced or corrected their conscious attitude. This often revealed blind spots in their personality or unexplored potentials they needed to develop. Jung discovered that dreams could diagnose psychological problems before they became conscious symptoms. Repetitive nightmares often indicated psychological complexes that needed attention. Absent or forgotten dreams suggested disconnection from the unconscious. And overly pleasant dreams might indicate avoidance of necessary psychological work. But Jung's most important insight was that dreams weren't just diagnostic, they were therapeutic. The unconscious mind actively worked to heal psychological imbalances through dream imagery and experience. Therefore, Jung taught patients to collaborate with their dreams rather than simply interpret them. He developed techniques like active imagination, where patients would continue dream narratives while awake, and amplification, where they would explore the cultural and mythological meanings of dream symbols. These methods helped integrate unconscious content into conscious awareness, promoting psychological growth and healing. The compensatory function: why your dreams balance your psyche. Jung's theory of compensation explains why dreams often seem to contradict our conscious attitudes and desires. The unconscious mind monitors our psychological balance and creates dreams that compensate for one-sided conscious development. If you're overly intellectual during the day, your dreams become emotional and instinctual. If you avoid conflict, your dreams might be filled with confrontation. If you're too extroverted, your dreams pull you towards solitude and reflection. Therefore, Jung saw dreams as the psyche's self-regulating mechanism. This compensatory function explains why successful people often have dreams of failure, why rational people have irrational dreams, and why moral people sometimes have immoral dream experiences. The unconscious isn't trying to torment you, it's trying to balance you. Jung believed that paying attention to compensatory dreams over time reveals the individuation process, the psychological journey toward becoming a complete, integrated person. Dreams show you the unlived potentials, suppressed aspects, and undeveloped talents that need to be integrated into your conscious personality. The businessman who ignores his creative side will dream of artists and musicians. The overly caring person who neglects their own needs will dream of selfish or destructive behavior. Therefore, Jung taught that these compensatory dreams aren't problems to be solved, they're invitations to expand your personality. Through careful attention to dream compensation patterns, Jung helped patients discover their unique path of psychological development. He called this process individuation, becoming the person you're meant to be rather than the person society expects you to be. Modern applications using Jung's dream insights. Today, Jung's insights about dreams remain relevant for modern psychological development, even as our understanding of sleep neuroscience has advanced. His emphasis on dreams as meaningful psychological communications offers practical tools for personal growth and self-understanding. Start by recording dreams immediately upon waking, without trying to interpret them. Jung emphasized that the unconscious speaks in precise imagery, and interpretation should come after careful observation of patterns over time. Look for recurring symbols, situations, or emotions across multiple dreams. Jung believed these repetitions indicated important psychological themes that needed conscious attention. Pay special attention to dreams that feel different or more significant than usual. These often contain archetypal content. Notice how your dreams compensate for your conscious attitudes. If you're going through a period of high stress and control, your dreams might emphasize rest and spontaneity. If you're avoiding difficult decisions, your dreams might force you into choice situations. Jung discovered that dreams often anticipate and prepare us for major life changes before our conscious minds recognize them. Career changes, relationship transitions, and spiritual developments frequently appear first in dreams as symbolic representations. The accountant who starts dreaming of teaching children might be receiving unconscious guidance about a career change. The single person who dreams of building houses might be psychologically preparing for creating a family. Therefore, Jung taught that dreams can serve as internal compasses during periods of uncertainty. By learning to dialogue with dream figures and explore dream scenarios through active imagination, you can access the unconscious wisdom that Jung believed was always available but rarely consulted in our culture's emphasis on rational decision-making. Remember when we talked about Jung analyzing 80,000 dreams? Each one taught him that dreams aren't random brain activity. They're sophisticated communications from the deepest parts of human psychology, offering guidance, healing, and opportunities for growth that most people never access. The individuation journey. Dreams as your personal guide. Jung's ultimate insight was that dreams don't just reflect who you are, they actively guide you toward who you're meant to become. The individuation process revealed through dreams is your psyche's blueprint for developing into your most complete and authentic self. Every level of dreaming contributes to this process. The geometric patterns prepare your consciousness for symbolic communication. Personal shadow dreams help you integrate rejected aspects of yourself. Archetypal encounters connect you with universal human wisdom. Collective. Unconscious visions link you to the broader human experience, and individuation dreams transform your relationship with reality itself. Jung emphasized that individuation through dreams is a lifelong process, not a destination. Your dreams will continue to evolve as you grow, always offering new insights and challenging you to expand beyond your current limitations. The key is developing what Jung called a dialogue with the unconscious, treating your dreams as communications from a wise part of yourself that sees beyond the ego's limited perspective. This doesn't mean accepting every dream literally, but rather learning to engage with dream wisdom as you would with a trusted advisor. Jung believed that people who maintain this dialogue with their unconscious through dreams live richer, more authentic lives because they have access to psychological resources that purely rational approaches can't provide. Therefore, understanding your dream levels isn't just about sleep. It's about accessing the full depth of human consciousness for psychological healing and growth. You now understand why Jung considered dreams the most direct path to psychological development and self-knowledge. But knowledge without practice remains theoretical. Start paying attention to your dreams using Jung's approach. Record them, explore their compensatory function, and look for the archetypal wisdom they contain. If this exploration has helped you see dreams differently, like this video and share it with someone who might benefit from understanding their unconscious mind. Subscribe to continue exploring how Jung's insights can transform your understanding of psychology and personal growth. In the comments, share which level of dreaming resonates most with your experience. Write, "I'm ready to listen to my unconscious." Remember, your dreams are speaking to you every night in the sophisticated language of the psyche. Jung spent his career learning that language, and now you have the keys to begin your own dialogue with the deepest parts of human consciousness. See you in the next dimension.